It's hot out there, but let's blow them off the line of scrimmage.
Headline, Los Angeles.
This is RamView, the January 22nd, 2026 edition, brought to you by Kissler Law Firm. Have you been injured in an auto accident? Do you need some help? Have you got some questions? Call Kissler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kissler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KisslerLawFirm.com. Check out that QR code, KisslerLawFirm.com. Kissler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues, get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. And Sports Ball. Make the Super Bowl more fun, more social, and wager-free. Check out sportsball.com. So that'll be a good thing to do. Also, want to remind you that this show is also brought to you by Game Day in the Ram Cave, written by Joe T. Fictional NFC title game between the Rams and Packers. Didn't get it this year, but when we get it, I'm going to be insufferable when that game happens because I intend to sell a lot of books. But you can check it out in advance at the old price by picking up Game Day in the Ram Cave at Amazon. Available in e-format and also soft cover. Hopefully, audio very soon. My issue with the audio is I could press play tomorrow and it would come out in audio, but the AI is good. It's just not good enough. So we're kind of holding back a little bit until it gets better, or I take the time to actually do it myself, which I've been encouraged to do. But believe it or not, I do hate my voice. Now, you might be thinking, what am I doing here on a Thursday after we did an hour and 20-minute show yesterday? Well, I do have this thing. I do have a phobia. When I worked at the newspaper, I was a sports editor at the Mid-Valley, and I never missed a deadline, ever. I remember driving cross country, and my wife and I were in western Montana, and I was trying to get a signal because I needed to submit my column. And we were looking for a Kinko's in western Montana. This was in the early 2000s, because the idea of missing a deadline drives me crazy. And especially when you're getting paid, right? And I've got a terrific key sponsor here in Kissler Law. And the idea, and I have said I will go on 3 times a week. And yeah, I have to go on 3 times. In my heart, I have to go on 3 times a week. He didn't put any pressure on me. So we will do a show tomorrow. And we will get back to talking Rams, Seahawks, and other stuff around the NFL. But I realized I wanted to get into this before the season ended, just to kind of like pump the primer on where the Rams are going to be, win, lose, or not playing at all on February the 9th. The Super Bowl is February the 8th. So when Ram fans wake up on Monday morning, February the 9th, we're going to know where they finished. But these are some of the things that are going to be in front of the Rams. So we're going to talk about their free agents. We're going to talk about who's coming up in free agency over the next 2 years. We're going to talk about draft picks, what they should look at, and the history of the Rams drafting certain players. Like when we have conversations and someone suggests taking a cornerback at number 13, I'm not necessarily against it. Ram history shows they don't generally do it. So today, we're just going to focus on personnel and all those things that go with personnel, contracts, people retiring, moving on. I'm not going to necessarily look at the free agents in the market because I don't know if there's a whole lot there. And then, of course, looking at the draft and some players maybe the Rams can zero in on with their draft picks. And we'll talk about the Rams draft picks because right now there's a little bit of a debate here. The Rams have 10 or 11 picks. I have them with 10. Rams Wire has the Rams with 11. That means they have 2 fifth rounds. I see the Rams with only 1 fifth round. These things will work themselves out. Everything's a little bit fluid in the later rounds. But Nate Schalise, keep an eye on Nate Schalise, the Rams passing game coordinator. He's considered a finalist in Cleveland. And if he gets that gig, the Rams get 2 third-round picks. And one of those third-round picks will come this year. And if that happens, that means the Rams have 5 picks in the first 3 rounds. That pick will be outside of the top 100, likely about 104, 108, someplace in there. But the Rams will get that pick, and 5 picks in the first 3 rounds is a lot of ammunition, especially when you think about what the Rams have going into the 2027 draft. They have a full complement of picks. But so I thought it'd be good today to go over that stuff. Maybe that stuff's not interesting you. I do appreciate you guys clicking on. But if you have any questions, feel free to shoot them to me. I don't expect to go an hour and 20 minutes today. That was a great show yesterday. You guys made it great. So right off the top, Ram free agents. I probably should have put a list up here, and I guess I still can. Do you really want me to do that? Let me see if I can do that. Boom, boom. I'll take a screenshot. This is kind of a freebie one today, so I guess I can take a little bit more time. All right, let's see here. Boom, add scene, yada, yada, yada. Here we go. Look at this. Unbelievable. All the things I couldn't do back in the day that I can do now. I didn't even spell check these things. They are spelled correctly, just the computer doesn't recognize them. But these are the Rams free agents right now of the 2026 season coming up. Rob Havenstein, Tutu Atwell, Tyler Higbee, Cam Curl. I put Cam Curl in bold because there's already a buzz that the Rams may re-sign him or want to re-sign him, and I think we'd all say amen to that. And then Jimmy Garoppolo. And then I've got key players in blue. Tyler Higbee, Kobe Durant, Roger McCreary. I think there's real interest here in McCreary because he's depth to the room. But you got Havenstein, Atwell, Higbee, Curl, Garoppolo, Durant, Witherspoon, McCreary, Troy Reeder, DJ Humphries, Quisenberry, and restricted free agents, Keir Thomas. I think he's probably at the end of his line being on the IR all year. And then, of course, Justin Diedick and Xavier Smith. They're restricted free agents. They're not going anywhere unless the Rams decide they don't want to have anything to do with them. When we look at this board, we see Havenstein. We know it's the end of the line for him. Is Warren McClendon the full-time guy for the next 10 years? I don't know, but he is the guy right now. And Havenstein was just designated to return from IR. I doubt very much if he just steps back into the starting lineup, unless McClendon is struggling or something goes on there. Tutu Atwell, we know, is a goner. He was not activated in Chicago, and the chances of being active this week aren't very good. Tyler Higbee, his contract is up. That's one I put in blue because he's a favorite of McVay. He's a favorite of the team. I've written Tyler Higbee's professional obit 1,000 times, but you never know. I would think he's done after 10 seasons or 11 seasons. I'm sorry. He's had injuries the last couple of years, significant ones. I would think this is Tyler Higbee's last ride. Cam Curl, we've talked about. Jimmy G, I spoke about yesterday that if Stafford was to win it all and walk off the field with his wife and kids and decided to retire, I would advocate keeping Jimmy G as our bridge quarterback for another season just to see where all the chips fall going into 2027. Kobe Durant, this was a guy for a while this year I did not see getting a contract again. I just didn't see him getting that contract. But 3 interceptions in the postseason, and he's played some of his best ball in the postseason. He's starting to look like that guy that showed a lot of promise back in 2022. Not that he's been a bum or anything, but he's had injuries, and he was a 4th-round pick. He's a 4th-round pick. The Rams have gotten a lot of clicks out of. I could see, if no other offers come, I could see the Rams wanting to bring him back on something reasonable. Ahkello Witherspoon, I think it's done. I think it's over. This guy has only played 1 full season in the NFL, and that was 2023. I think it's over for him. I like the guy. I wouldn't be upset if they brought him back on a cutthroat contract, but I think he's done. We talked about Roger McCreary. I think I'd kind of like to see him come back one more, get a contract with him. Of course, it all based on the money. But Troy Reeder's not going anywhere. Troy Reeder's been wonderful on special teams. I'm all down with Troy Reeder. DJ Humphries is a rental. David Quisenberry is a rental. Those guys will be replaced. And then when you look at 2027, That's where things get real. That's where the window starts to close. We talked about 24, 25, and 26, the Rams window being open. You look at 27, and whatever Coward said, he was wrong. Stafford is under contract next year for 48 rocks. His market value is listed at 53, but we are getting a bargain with the best quarterback in football, not making 60 rocks, right? He wants to win a title. But look at that, 2027. You have Stafford, Nakua, Devontae Adams, Kevin Dotson, Steve Avila. I think we feel different about Colby Parkinson. We better decide how we feel about Warren McClendon. All those guys are coming up on offense in 2027. Stafford's a long shot. We could see him retiring. Even our punter, Ethan Evans, is coming up in 2027. And then you're looking at Kobe Turner, Byron Young. I think Darius Williams might not even come back next year. He's under contract next year, but he's not a serious dead cap hit if he goes. But it just depends on what the Rams do in the draft. But I can't imagine him sticking around. Emmanuel Forbes will be back. DeJuan Johnson will be up. But we're going to be curious to see how much DeJuan Johnson's getting a lot of playing time, right? But he'll be out. And then, of course, Coleman Shelton. I won't go too deep into 2028, but you see the key names there listed in 2028. So these were the Rams are at as of February the 9th, 2026. Now, Rams draft picks, right? Like I said, as of 2026, right now, the Rams have 10 picks. Rams Wire has them with 11. They're counting a second, fifth rounder that I can't track down. I hope we find it and it all works out well. But right now, the Rams have they have a first. In the first round, they have 13 and 29. In the second round, they have 61. Third round, they got 93. Fifth round, 167. Sixth round, 205, 208. Seventh round, 232, 250, 256. And those seventh rounders are compensatory picks that they got. One, I think, for Ben Skoranek, and I'm trying to remember who the other one was. So those are projected compensatory picks the Rams are going to get. So right there, that shows them with 10 draft picks. And everything is fluid except for number 13. Number 13 is locked in. If the Rams go on to win the Super Bowl or advance to the Super Bowl, then they're probably going to be picking at 31. So everything's going to be fluid. Same thing with the second round, everything going forward. But that's 10 picks. That's a lot of stuff to work with. And I talked about Nate Schalise. If he's given the Browns job, that gives the Rams 5 picks in the first 3 rounds. A lot of stuff that you can do there. Okay. The people that I have circled, and I love your opinions. What I want to see the Rams go after is wide receiver, defensive lineman, corner, and offensive lineman, interior offensive lineman. I struggle with draft mocks and draft boards that keep listing tackle as a number 1 first round, 13th overall pick for the Rams. I don't think so. I don't think that's a priority right now. I don't think there's a problem getting depth, but I think there's a bigger issue in the interior of the line, bigger issue at wide receiver given Devontae Adams' age, Puka Nakua's style of play, and the lack of a legit third receiver. Jordan Whittington, Xavier Smith, Kanata Mumfield are all wonderful, but I think the Rams need something more there. Also, when you look at this, the interior line is not someplace that generally you draft high, and then we'll look at that. So what I don't see also is the Rams going after a corner with the number 13 pick. There's no recent history of them nabbing a corner in the first round. They haven't drafted a corner in the first round since Ty Hill out of Clemson 20 years ago, back in 2006. I remember that draft day. It was a very special day because I was all excited. I thought the Rams got the next Pat Thomas. But I put this thing together about a year ago. Speaking of cornerbacks in the first 100, drafting a cornerback by the Rams, a corner, CB, in the first 100 of the draft, the first 100 picks. Starting with the common draft area of 1966, the Rams have taken 24 cornerbacks in the first 100, 3 times in the first round. Jerry Gray, Todd Light, and Ty Hill. 2 of those really worked out, Gray and Light. Ty Hill was a bust. And you could see the names from 66 through 99. The guys in bold, if you're in bold, that means you weren't a bust. You really stood out. You did well. Eddie McMillan was a starter for the Rams for 3 years. Monty Jackson, you can see he's 28th overall there. He would have been a first-round pick in a few years if he'd been drafted a few years later. But Monty Jackson was an All-Pro for the Rams. Rod Perry was an All-Pro for the Rams, 98th overall in 75 out of Colorado. The very next year, Pat Thomas, you see Leroy Irvin, who was outstanding for a decade for the Rams. Jerry Gray was outstanding. I think he later moved to safety. Todd Light was one of the last great picks of the original version of the Los Angeles Rams. And so you see that there. And then Dre Bly in St. Louis. But you see all the other guys. Dexter McLean, he was okay. Steve Israel, Darrell Henley, Cliff Hicks, George Youngblood, Cal State LA, and such. And then you look at from 2000 on, Jacoby Shepard, second round, Oklahoma State. Who? Travis Fisher, same thing. Ronnie Bartell. Ron Bartell did really well. He got a second contract. And then you got Ty Hill, Jonathan Wade, Bradley Fletcher. Jack Rabbit Jenkins was a first-round talent, but because of his issues, he dropped to the second round. That was a good pick by the Rams. He was like a precursor to Trevon Diggs. He gave up a lot of big plays, but he also made a lot of big plays. Trumaine Johnson was really solid. He was actually, I think he was franchise tagged in 2016, and then he went to the Jets, and then the Rams franchise tagged LaMarcus Joyner. I think those are the last franchise tags the Rams had. And LaMarcus Joyner was kind of a hybrid, an early star player, right? Played a lot of slot coverage, safety, did different things. And then you'll see right here at the bottom there, 2019. That's the last time the Rams spent a top 100 pick on a cornerback. And so that gives you an idea of what the Rams do and what they don't do. I'm not saying they won't do it. But the Rams just don't have a history under Snead or even in the McSnead era of going after any of these guys in the high rounds. They just don't. They take him in the later rounds. And then there's one other guy here. Let's see. Let's look at this. I didn't even plan on this, but let me drop this sucker in there. I'll add the scene. Boom. Look at this. The media. I mean, it's so easy these days. Jubilee Dunbar. Let's see here. Is it this one? There you go. These are the top corners. Jermon McCoy. I don't know if I wrote that name right. At Tennessee. Mansour Delane. Avion Terrell. Colton Hood. All these guys, Brandon said, they're all projected early first round, late first round, early second. By the time the Rams get around to drafting a corner that they want, it could be in the third round. And one of the guys I circled was Will Lee at Texas A&M. It doesn't mean they're going to draft him, but I think that would be a more logical place for the Rams to draft a corner. Just wanted to get that up there before we go any further. And then you start talking about wide receivers. Now, wide receivers are hilarious with the Rams because think of what the production the Rams have gotten these last few years out of their receivers. It's been pretty amazing. Robert Woods was a trade, though. Brandon Cooks was a trade. Sammy Watkins was a trade. Cooper Kupp was in the third round. He was drafted. And these are the picks of wide receivers in the Snead era. The Mick Snead era starts in 2017. There's only one hit here. That was Cooper Kupp. Now, you're going to say Puka Nacua, but Nacua was drafted in the 5th round. This is top 100, okay? There is not a history of the Rams drafting a wide receiver, but I would think given the NFL right now, given the state of things, and given where the team's going to be, this would be a time, as far as I'm concerned, to go after another wide receiver. And if you look at those names there, Brian Quick. Does anyone remember Brian Quick, right? Pretty brutal, right? Tavon Austin, we didn't even know what he was. They tried to make him a wide receiver. They tried to make him a running back. They tried to do a lot of things with Tavon Austin, and it never worked out. And then, of course, Stedman Bailey. never played in LA. Chris Givens had a moment. I think he ended up in Baltimore. Van Jefferson, right? We know what Van Jefferson turned into. And of course, the unfortunate story of Tutu Atwell and what happened to his career, in the sense that he got 10 rocks to do nothing this year. And again, I put that on McVay. I hope Tutu Atwell can go somewhere and make a living. These are the receivers that are the top 3 receivers in the draft. Jordan Tyson, ASU. Hadn't seen as much of him as I saw Carnell Tate at Ohio State, and Mekhi Lemon. And this is why whenever I've seen a mock draft, Mekhi Lemon consistently is there right around that 13 spot for the Rams. And I think that would be a great draft pick. He's explosive. He's fat. You know, he's got all those things. He's got good hands, and he would be wonderful. I don't know what his attitude, character, and all that stuff is. The Rams have a different metric for that. But to add him, getting one more year out of Adams and a maturing Puka Nacua and a Terrence Ferguson, and maybe a return of Matthew Stafford, that would be out of sight. I'd take Carnell Tate. I'd take him, but I think he would be gone. Mekhi Lemon is 5'11", and I think that's going to push him into the 3rd spot. Jordan Tyson is 6'2". I think Carnell Tate is something like that, maybe a little bit taller. All right, let's keep moving on here. Look at some of the other stuff we got. All right, looking at the Rams and their offensive or defensive front. This is where I do want the Rams to draft. And again, history isn't necessarily playing at play here, because again, I guess because the Rams have only had one first-round pick in the last 9 years. But, you know, even in the 2nd round, 3rd round, 4th round, you're just not seeing a whole lot. And I wanted to get some names up here. Let's see if we can get some names here. Yeah, all right, cool. McSnead, when he first took over, his first pick was a defensive lineman named Michael Brockers. We got 9 years out of him. He's the 21st century version of Mike Fanning. Mike Fanning out of Notre Dame, that gave the Rams some good years, but not great. Brockers gave the Rams some really good years, not great. 2012 through 2020, and then Aaron Donald in 2014. They invested a number 1 pick in him. Rams didn't go deep into the trenches in the top 100 again until Kobe Turner in 2023. Think about that. Now, all those guys are hits, right? But the Rams have been very judicious about dipping in with defensive linemen. You know, they signed in Ndamukong Suh. They got Greg Gaines in the 4th round. Same thing with Joseph Sebastian Jay. They got him late. They signed Poona Ford. You know, they did sign Ashawn Robinson. But these are the guys that are projected as the top defensive linemen. Peter Woods, Clemson, is considered very high. Caleb Banks and Caden McDonald could be there at the end of the 1st round for the Rams. And I'd love to see the Rams get one of these guys just to plug him in along the front. I think people are understanding the game is really about those guys that can clog the middle. And then a little bit later on in the draft, you got Christian Miller in Georgia and Lee Hunter at Texas Tech. They would be more late 2nd, early 3rd round types for the Rams to look at. All right, let's keep plugging along here. The interior of the offensive line, there's not a whole lot to put here. The Rams drafted Jamon Brown, 72nd overall in 2015. That didn't work out. Joe Noteboom was drafted 89th overall in 2018. And Noteboom had a kind of a nice run. Hey, Rams don't go to the Super Bowl without Joe Noteboom. He played some really good ball in 2021 and parlayed that into a 3-year deal that gave him some good money. I think he was in Baltimore this year, but he was never the same, right? Even after getting all the endorsements in the contract, the endorsement from Andrew Whitworth. I don't know if you want to call that a bust. Without him, you don't get to the Super Bowl. Steve Avila was taken 36th overall along the line. And I guess if you want to say Joe Noteboom was interior, we did move him around a little bit. The one that's interesting is Logan Bruss. He wasn't drafted in the top 100. He was one of those compensatory picks the Rams got. He was drafted at 104. But Logan Bruss, the Rams tried to solve this problem at guard, and it didn't work. And then they went back to the well in 2023 and grabbed Avila. Top guards begin in the second round with Penn State's, Oliva Vega Ione and Oregon's Emmanuel Pregnon. But there's a guy at Texas A&M. He's 6'5", 315, and he's projected as a third rounder. And so I think he might be a third round fit for the Rams. A guy named Chase Besantis, 6'5", 315. That wouldn't be too bad. Now, the other talk has been about centers for the Rams because I think we all agree Coleman Shelton's not the answer. Again, not a position the Rams have really invested in. John Sullivan, the former Eagle, Florida Notre Damer, gave the Rams the last 2 years of his career in 2017 and 2018. Those were good years. Austin Blythe kind of picked up the pieces in 2020, moved on. Brian Allen, who was a fourth-round pick out of, I think, Michigan State, he surprised everybody, and he had a great 2021, and the Rams won a Super Bowl. He got injured midway through 2022, and everything was a bounce around. 2023, we had Coleman Shelton. 2024, it was basically Bo Limmer when Avila and Jonah Jackson whiffed out there at center. And so we still got Coleman Shelton now back in 2025. Top centers are not listed in the first round. The top centers are looking like late second round and early third round draft picks. Connor Lew from Auburn and Jake Slaughter from Florida. And Indiana's Pat Coogan, who got a lot of airtime, and Iowa's Logan Jones, who Steve from the Trib has been pushing. These guys project as fourth round material. So that's where the Rams are at in terms of looking at their free agents and looking at what is in play going forward, starting on February the 9th. Now, a lot of this can change, right? Warren McClendon could have a really bad next week. In 2 weeks, the Rams are back in that tackle market. That can change. Stafford could decide I'm retiring no matter what. That's going to cause some changes in what the Rams are thinking. But I can't think of anything better than if Stafford decides to walk away. That's the biggest unknown. If Stafford decides to walk away, I can't think of anything better than letting Jimmy G plug in for a year and give him Mekhi Lemon, give him Devontae Adams, give him Puka Nacua, give him Terrence Ferguson, give him that offensive line, give him Kyron Williams, give him Blake Corum, right? Jimmy G has shown that he can get your team to the Super Bowl. I don't think he's a great quarterback. Can he win the Super Bowl? He's going to need all those other guys to play great. But I think what he does is he prevents you from bottoming out. And the Rams have never bottomed out. You know, this whole business of 2022, which has always driven me crazy, is this business that the bill came due for 2021. The Rams were in great shape heading into 2022. You just couldn't account for the worst offensive line disaster in NFL history. And so that completely blew up the season, and that led to Stafford getting hurt. Cooper Kupp started, his health started catching up with him because after 2021, mid-2022, I think 8 weeks in, he tore up his the high ankle sprain and everything, and it was never the same afterwards. And so I don't look at 2022 as some bottoming out or failure because the very next season, Rams were back in the playoffs. The very next season after being back in the playoffs in 2024, the Rams made it to the divisional round. And now in 2025, they are in the NFC title game. Even when the Rams struggled after Super Bowl 53 in 2019, they still finished 9-7. So I don't know if it's in the Rams' DNA to just say, hey, let's tank and see if we can get a quarterback. I think they'll be creative. I think they've got a lot of draft picks to be creative. If you want to be creative and make a big move for something or somebody, I think they've got the ammunition in the draft capital to do that. And you've got a quarterback in Jimmy G. If maybe you bring him back for another year and say, hey, you're going to be the starter, and you got Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, Terrence Ferguson, and this decent offensive line, I think that's going to be something that's Jimmy might be open to, right? And might take a team-friendly contract if that's what he wants to do. So, all right, guys, I kind of shot most of my stuff there. If you got any questions, throw them at me. I know we answered and talked about a lot of stuff yesterday. Let's just do this real quick. Let's have some fun.
Stay in your lane, bro.
I am going to stay in there we go. There we
man.
go. On this day in 2021, the Rams hired Raheem Morris as DC and Joe DeCamillis as their special teams coordinator. But better yet, on January 22nd, 2022, the Rams activated Eric Whittle from the practice squad, right? Whittle came in down the stretch for the Rams and played great ball and got a Super Bowl ring. And that was an awesome, awesome story. Born on this day, the late, great Charles White, who passed away a few years ago. He would be 68 years old today. So we're all remembering Charles White. My first 4-year tailback at USC. I caught Anthony Davis' senior year. I caught 2 years of Ricky Bell. And then I saw Charles White. And so I do have a special spot in my heart for Charles White. And then, of course, Vince Newsom was born on this day in 1961. And you're saying, Vince Newsom, hey, throughout the 80s, the Rams got him in 83. I think he was a 4th-round pick out of Washington. Vince Newsom played some solid safety for the Rams. Was he spectacular? No. But he was a guy that was out there all the time. And, I was a big Vince Newsom fan. And he turns, what is that? What would he be turning today? He turns 65 today. But Vince Newsom had a nice run with the Rams in the decade of the 80s. All right, let's keep on trucking here. Welcome. I'm ready to hang out, guys. If you guys want to talk, this is weird. I hope everything is good in terms of you're able to post questions. It's the first time I've been on here without questions, and I'm looking at my notes here. I've got someone rapping with me. Okay, so couple other things that I wanted to throw out there and just let it float. Houston Texans look like they might be out on CJ Stroud. Do you think CJ Stroud is someone the Rams could be interested in if Stafford retires? That's one guy. I know one guy I'm interested in if they're all up on his case. I'm interested in Justin Herbert. But CJ Stroud seems like he could be somebody that might not get that second contract. Who would have thought after their rookie years that Bryce Young would be extended and CJ Stroud wouldn't be, right? And he just had he had a bad playoff. And he didn't have an impressive year. And let's remember, when he was out, it was Davis Mills that came in out of Stanford. And Davis Mills played, I think he won 3 straight games that really got them back in the hunt this season. And so I'm not saying they're going to turn everything over to Davis Mills, but it is interesting. They are kind of in a middle ground there with CJ Stroud. So something to keep an eye on. All right, we've hit the 33-minute mark, and let's Joe, tons of questions are posted. Guys, I can't see the questions. Let me see here. I can't see your questions, guys. I am so sorry. They're not showing up. I am not trying to be rude or anything. Yeah, I don't know what's happening with the questions. Thank you, Tim Burns. I don't know. Is it something here? I don't know. Something in the graphics. Yeah, I can't see any questions. I don't know. I do not know, guys. I don't know if it's popping in on any place else, but maybe because I wasn't supposed to go on today. Maybe that's why it's not working. I don't know. Let's see. I do appreciate you guys clicking on. Yeah, I think there's a tech difficulty here at Restream because I'm not seeing any of your questions. Let's see. I have a question, right? Let's see. Not even my question is posting. So there must be something going on with Restream right now because even the question I want to post asking you guys is not listing. So I think that's just where we're at today. I do apologize, guys. If you want, you can post them on YouTube and I will go back and answer. I'll answer every question if you want to drop it in on YouTube. And I'd be very happy to do that. Tons of questions are posting. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. If you want to, like I said, if you want to go to YouTube and leave Restream because I can't see your questions. I really hate that because I do appreciate you guys watching. Let me see here. I guess better do it today than yesterday or tomorrow when everything else is out of whack. Let's see. We want to go live. You're looking live. There we go. Guys, watching. Let me see here. There we go. Yeah, I do appreciate the likes, guys. I do not know what it is. I have no idea what is causing that, and I'll have to check that thing out to see what is going on. All messages are visible. There we go. Man, I do appreciate you guys being here. But I'll let you go, and I'll come and figure this thing out. But if you want to leave comments someplace, yeah, I see YouTube. So drop your comments on YouTube, and I will figure it out, and I'll go there right now and try to figure this out, guys. God bless. Take care. Yeah, everyone send Ustream a nasty message right now because they messed up my show. There you go. Okay, guys. God bless. Take care. Happy Thursday.